Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel Vigil, taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel Vigil.
Happy Tuesday, my friends. Holy smokes, there's a bunch of just random little things that we need to get into today. Talking about the Avs, the Nuggets, should they trade MPJ? A conversation that's definitely starting to heat up a little bit. The Broncos drafting JJ McCarthy, or could they possibly get Caleb Williams at number 1? There's plenty to dive into today, so let's do it. Richie Carni is hanging out with me today. You and I can just BS with the best of them.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry,
Can't wait. Can't wait.
All right. Well, let's just start with first the MPJ stuff. We're rolling promos on 104 through the fan today about this kind of stuff. This conversation's really starting to heat up. It's funny because I actually had this conversation like probably a month ago. CBS had put out like a very random, hey, here's a name that could possibly get traded in the mix, and it was MPJ. I got so much hate on that. People being like, why would you want to trade MPJ? Why would you want to break up the starting five? Rachel, why? And now some people are starting to jump on board. Are you on board?
I think I'm on board conceptually if you can find the right piece. I mean, there's been a lot of...
What is the right piece?
Well, I think if you were able to bring in somebody that was a little bit more of a consistent scorer, a little bit more of a floor spacer, because let's face it, like when Michael Porter Jr.'s shot is going in, it's pretty. You know what I mean? But it just feels like there's been some regression in that department, and he's been battling through some things physically and mentally that it just hasn't looked the same really since the finals or the deep part of the playoffs during their championship run. So it's tough because on one hand, you know, Michael Porter Jr. was like the ultimate Nuggets kind of embodiment success story because he was a guy that had all the talent of a lottery pick when he played in college, but because of injuries and stuff, he fell down in the draft. The Nuggets bought low on him, kind of made that investment, and he really rode the wave. I mean, he was in Michael Malone's doghouse for a long time, and you know, he still, you know, gets subbed out in late game defensive situations and things like that, even with where he's at now. But it seemed like he was really starting to flourish, and then it really kind of derailed toward the back end of that season, and he just hasn't quite looked the same. So if you're telling me that you can put him on the block and you can bring in somebody like a Jordan Clarkson or somebody that's a little bit more of a consistent scorer and steady things at that position because they need that kind of stability, especially in the, you know, Jokic bench minutes and things like that. I'm into it, but it's easier said than done.
I'll never forget when they did Michael Porter Jr.'s contract extension. At first I was like, he's not worth this amount of money. I was like, what the heck are we talking about here? And then a week later, it comes out he needs back surgery. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me, Nuggets? You had to know he needed back surgery, yet you just paid him all of this money. And surprisingly enough, with me saying all of those things, don't break up the starting five. I'm sorry, just don't. You have something that's clearly working. You never know what it's going to be like when you bring in somebody else.
There is something to be said about chemistry, and these guys have played together, and they kind of slogged through. I mean, pieces were added little by little, but this core that they have has played together, you know, for years now, and they've just kind of battled step after step after step. It's like, oh, they make it to the second round, get knocked out. They do this, and the Jamal Murray gets hurt, and all. Once we finally got to see them all healthy, all together, they won the title. You know, so there's a part of everybody, myself included, that's like, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But that's not really how it works in major professional sports. You have to be thinking one step ahead.
You're thinking like 2 years ahead.
Yeah, and the tricky thing about MPJ is, I mean, Rachel, how many NBA teams do you think there are in the league where your fourth option is a max player?
Yeah.
Michael Porter Jr. is a max player, and he, at times throughout this season, is their fourth scoring option.
Yeah.
So that's not an ideal setup, you know, for any NBA team if you're kind of constructing it from scratch. But he has that upside that just kind of in the back of your mind, you're like, man, if he's just on, it is something different. He presents some of the same physical mismatches of like a Kevin Durant. I mean, he's very tall, but he has a clean shot. It's hard to block him. He's physical, he's fast, but it's never all kind of like we talk about Jamal Murray, right? Like Jamal Murray has flashes and moments where he's bubble Jamal or he's, you know, championship Jamal, finals Jamal, whatever it is. And it's like, this guy is one of the best point guards in the league, bar none. And I still think he's probably a low end, you know, top 10, top 12 point guard in the league right now.
Yeah.
But we've always talked about with Jamal that you just don't get it consistently enough, either be it through injuries or just through up and down play. And I think MPJ is a little bit more exaggerated version of that. But with his max contract, it makes it harder to move because the NBA, more than any other sport, you really got to play, addition and subtraction and matching salaries and doing all that because the luxury tax and the aprons keep getting bigger and bigger. So he's not the easiest guy to get rid of.
Yeah. Listen, Nuggets Nation, don't hate me on this one, okay?
Oh, boy.
But if the Nuggets did not have the Joker, they would be a bottom of the pack playoff team.
Well,
100%.
We've
I'm
seen
sorry.
that. We've seen that. I mean, Jokic is such a unicorn player.
Dead serious?
Yeah.
If Jokic, knock on every single piece of wood around me, everywhere. If Jokic got hurt, this team's not going very far.
And I think most rational minds would understand that because we've seen it. I mean, it was a miracle in some aspects that they got as far as they did through the regular season and the postseason when everybody around Joker was hurt, when it was him just putting the team on his back. But I think that's fair to say about a lot of really good teams in the NBA.
Yeah.
I think if Josh Allen were to go down, the Bills probably aren't, a force to be reckoned with. If Lamar Jackson was hurt, maybe it's Jokic is a more exaggerated example of that.
I see where you're going, but truthfully, if Jokic goes down, I mean, you saw him lose to, oh gosh, they play so many games. I can't even remember who they just lost
If
to.
Steph Curry was out indefinitely for a season for the Warriors, nobody's expecting them to do anything. And, Klay Thompson is aging and Draymond is in therapy for half the season and, whatever have you. But I think it's fair to say that about a lot of teams. But Jokic, because of his incredible usage rate and how much everything flows through him, not just from a scoring perspective, but from a ball distribution standpoint, because he's their point center, essentially, it would be a drastic impact. And we've seen it in short stints. Not even just from injury perspectives, but like the splits from when Jokic is on the court versus when he's on the bench. I mean, a lot of times throughout the last couple of years, it's really been like, how do the Nuggets survive the non-Jokic minutes? Like not how do we maximize, how do we change things up? It's how do we just get through and survive the 10 minutes a game or the 7 minutes a game where Jokic has to take a breather.
Yeah. No, 100%. I was looking up. It's the OKC game that he was out against. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a huge bummer. Which kind of leads us into this point too, because a lot of people I don't think people were necessarily surprised, but they were hoping to see another Nuggets player taken to the All-Star game. And we got this comment, and it says, sorry, but MPJ and Jamal don't deserve to be All-Stars. I low-key think AG is the closest to All-Star, but the NBA doesn't take that much consideration defensive-wise when it comes to picking All-Stars. I could not agree more.
Correct.
You are spot on with that.
Mm-hmm. You are going to be hard pressed to find more of an Aaron Gordon hype man than me. I think Aaron Gordon he's
obsessed with Aaron Gordon.
He has quickly become one of my favorite Nuggets of all time.
Mr. Consistent.
His defensive contributions during that title run are something that you just can't understate. Having to take on the other team's best players night in and night out, and when you go through the rounds, you're talking about Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert in round 1. Who'd they face in round 2? The Suns, Kevin Durant. And then you've got the LeBron James in the Western Conference Finals. And then Jimmy Butler for him to have to take on the other team's best scoring weapon and to do it as efficiently as he did, he really did neutralize for the most part the other team's best weapon. And because of the versatility of the positions that those guys play, they don't all play the same position and the way you have to guard them and the way that it changes their lineup. It's amazing. And so I agree with you. I don't think Jamal Murray is an all-star. I mean, he hasn't been one up to this point in his career. And I think, again, if you saw a little bit more consistency in that regard, I think he would get a nod. It's not to say that he'll never get one, but I actually posed this question to some of our guys in the middays the other day. I said, is it fair? Jamal's been in the league for 8 seasons now.
Mm-hmm.
Is it fair to say that we might have seen the best that Jamal Murray's ever going to be? Like what we've seen. We've already seen his ceiling. So, is it reasonable to suspect that he may never be an all-star?
Yeah.
And Michael Porter Jr. has experienced some regression, so I think that's totally fair. So, to the commenter's point, I think if I was going to pick a second all-star, Aaron Gordon would be the one. But it's not. You get way more credit from an all-star perspective, in my opinion, for having windmill dunks and high point per game averages than you do for just being a gritty lockdown defender.
Yeah.
He might get other accolades in other ways, but from an all-star voting perspective, it's pretty offensive minded.
I need to ask you the glasses.
Yeah, no, they're just blue blockers.
Okay.
I don't have it, but I stare at enough screens all day,
they look great
every day. See, I'm glad you said that because I feel like I'm not a glasses person. I was a little self-conscious about it, but
you look fantastic.
But yeah, my eyes have been bothering me so much that I just finally put them on. But yeah, it's been I haven't worn them in a while, so everybody today's been like, "What's going on here? Are we okay?"
They look fantastic. I love it. I feel like it makes you look very like studious,
distinguished.
Like I'm gonna find Richie dissecting JJ McCarthy's numbers.
Yes,
because everybody tends to think that he's gonna be the next quarterback of the Denver Broncos, which stresses me out just a smidge if we're being completely honest. There's no way the Broncos would go after JJ McCarthy. I feel like Jim Harbaugh is like pumping his name so much that everybody's like, wait, are we missing out on something? Are we missing out on something? No, let's calm down.
Listen,
JJ McCarthy does not need to be the next quarterback of the Denver Broncos.
First of all, we did this to ourselves, for the record.
You're kind of stressing me out just saying that.
We as a society should have known better than to give Jim Harbaugh an even larger platform. Nick Saban was our last chance. Nick Saban was our last chance to beat Michigan in the college football playoff. Harbaugh would have left anyways because he's running away from sanctions and all of that stuff like he has for the last couple of years. So he was going to be gone. The fact that not only did they win the national championship, which elevates his platform, he's now right in our backyard here in Broncos country in the AFC West with the Chargers. And listen, do I think he's pumping up his guy because he coached him to a national championship and all that? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But bias aside, because obviously I have Michigan State ties, if the Broncos draft JJ McCarthy to be their starting quarterback, that could be the final nail in my coffin to where I just have to sever my fandom and just say, you know what? Like,
remove myself?
Yes. I need a break. But I would feel the same way for the record if they did it with Bo Nix, because I think JJ McCarthy and Bo Nix are going to race each other to see who can be the next Mac Jones in the NFL. Like, I think neither guy, first of all, anytime a quarterback spends 6+ years in college, it's a red flag to me. You know what I mean? Like you're almost, you could have got your master's degree and you're almost pushing toward your doctorate at that point to play football. Like Stetson Bennett, Brandon Whedon, Bo Nix. I'm out on that.
You get so mad when they've been there for a minute.
Yeah, no, it's a red flag.
You got me young in the NFL.
Yes, yeah. Like, and listen, even when you stack the ages, right? And you're like, oh, well, he's only a couple of years older. It's like, yeah, but that makes a difference when you're talking about first round picks, fifth year options and all that stuff. It does make a difference because you need to maximize the youth window of your quarterback. But even just that aside, it's like, why? Mm-hmm. Why were you? Bo Nix was competing against Justin Herbert when Nix was the starter at Oregon or at Auburn, and Herbert was at Oregon. And then Nix took over for Herbert at Oregon and is now entering a draft when Herbert's about to get paid off his rookie deal. Like, it's just like, it's like the Twilight Zone.
You don't have to tell me.
I don't like that. Yeah. JJ McCarthy, to me, and listen, I don't pretend to be, I'm certainly not a Joel Klatt, a Mark Schlereth, or guys that are real true students of the game and film dissectors. But I just I've watched JJ McCarthy play, and as good as that team was, the team was built a very specific way. They rode the backs of two incredible running backs and filtered the game through that way. JJ McCarthy was never really asked to do all that much. And I don't think that's what's going to be the case here in Denver, because we tried to run that with Russ. We tried to run the ball and kind of use a quick passing game offense. And, there's a lot of options that would have been better at Russ than doing that. But I just feel like if you're going to spend a high first round pick, and I consider that the Broncos are sitting at 12, so it's closer to the middle, but I still consider that a high
I do too.
First round pick. I don't want to feel like I'm accepting pretty significant limitations like that.
Do you really think that the Broncos could? Because the more and more I have this conversation, the more and more I start to believe that it actually could happen. The Broncos could get the number 1 pick with Caleb Williams. First of all, I also want this just to be said. I'm not like a big Caleb Williams stan. Like I'm not diving into him. I'm not like, oh my gosh, this would be the greatest thing. He's gonna save Broncos country. Like, I'm not on that. Mm-hmm. But I'm starting to really think that there is a realistic possibility that they could.
I think
more so than 2 or 3.
I think that if they found a way to move up and take him, I would be thrilled. because you want to talk about.
Or wait, what about this? What if the Patriots or the Commanders are like, we really want Caleb Williams, and they somehow trade up for number 1, and that's the only way I can see them getting 2 or 3. Like it's some like crazy spin circle.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, we've been pulling on the conspiracy theory threads a lot this past week with Cliff Kingsbury's situation, because initially Cliff Kingsbury was looking like he was going to be the Raiders' offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And Cliff Kingsbury obviously has ties to USC with Caleb Williams and all of that. And then all of a sudden, and so we were like, okay, the Raiders specifically targeting Cliff Kingsbury, who was like out in the ether, wasn't doing anything.
Nope.
And you want to talk about because there's been wishy-washy with whether or not the Bears are going to keep Fields, they're going to draft Caleb Williams, they're going to do both somehow, because there is a world where that happens and Justin Fields becomes like one of the weirder bridge quarterbacks in recent memory. But so when Cliff Kingsbury was kind of all signs pointing to Vegas, it was like, oh wow, are the Raiders with their new head coach and are they going to try to move up and package a deal together for number 1? And then he backed out at the last minute. And he went to Washington, who has the number 2 pick. And all of a sudden it's like, wow.
And Caleb Williams congratulated him and the whole shebang.
And if you want to look at it from a more macro perspective, Caleb Williams went to high school and was a standout quarterback in the Washington, D.C. area. So now you factor in Caleb has roots there to D.C. His former coach at USC is going to be the offensive coordinator for this thing. It's like all of a sudden that to me, I still think the Bears are going to draft Caleb Williams. I think a lot of this is smoke. No.
See, here's what I'm starting to buy into. If you are the Bears, you have Justin Fields, whatever. You get 2 first round, 3 first round picks. Why not? I'll keep Justin Fields 1 more year. Maybe, just maybe, something can work out, and I'm building for my future.
The reason that's the argument, but
you're still getting a pick at 9.
In order to do that, you have to basically be convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that Justin Fields is going to be your franchise quarterback for the next decade.
I don't think you have to.
Okay, but if you don't know if you're ever going to be in position to draft the number
every single year.
I know, but you can't guarantee you're going to be in a position to draft them and do all of that stuff. And you're talking about Caleb Williams is the projected number 1 overall pick, and he will go number 1 overall no matter who takes him. But he's also in rare air. And I understand that there's been some comments and questions about his demeanor and his attitude.
I've heard that's a lot of smoke.
100%. Yeah. I mean, well, a lot of people were giving him grief for sobbing after they lost that game to, I don't remember, was it Oregon or something like that? And, I just want to go home and cuddle with my dog and watch Netflix. And it's like, whatever, and he was doing that. He was painting the nails and writing like F, whatever the team was on his fingers. And
have you ever painted your nails?
I have.
Really?
Yeah.
What color?
I have. I don't remember. I think it was.
Did you paint them or did somebody paint them for you?
I think somebody painted them for me, but I think it was for like a costume thing or something like that. I think we might have dressed up as like goths, so I think they were black.
Oh, okay.
Or something like that. But I've gotten manicures before, and without even asking, they put like a clear coat on me.
Listen.
So
you're sleeping if you've never gotten a pedicure.
Oh, I'm pro.
You are sleeping.
I am pro both, for the record, manicure and pedicure.
So
but
good.
I am team pedicure till the day I die.
So good.
There is
just
nothing
ask
better.
For the foot massage.
There is nothing better than having like nice, clean feet. I swear. I feel like there's like this stigma about like, men can't do that. And like, what's like, if it's,
what ladies love?
Yeah.
Clean feet.
Yeah,
good
exactly.
Feet.
Exactly.
Go
you don't
for
have
the
these
clean
like
feet.
scratchy Sasquatch toes. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's just be real. Let's be real.
I agree. Trust me, you don't have to tell me twice. I like clean feet.
Listen,
the foot massage you get is worth every penny.
I work out a lot. I got calluses on my hands and my fingernails and all that could be better, but I got clean feet.
Wait. I'm really curious what you think of Patrick Mahomes' dad bod.
Well, if it wasn't clear already, it is now. What we saw from Patrick Mahomes, that is the peak male form.
Yeah.
Now, that is what we all need to strive to be.
He's winning Super Bowls. Who cares?
Forget 7-minute abs. Forget going on paleo and keto diets and all that. That right there what we
We'll
saw
just put that one back
with the
up.
beer pooch and the like. Now listen, but look at
But
okay.
he didn't even say it's a beer pooch.
Okay.
He's like, yo, I'm a dad.
Yeah,
like,
I got
give
kids.
me some.
Yeah, which means
give me
he's
some
like,
slack.
which means he's like eating Go Puffs and like stuff at like 2 a.m. You know what I mean? Because he's up late or whatever. But you saw, I mean, he still had the arms. So like, listen, I think we need to reestablish what our standard is for the peak male body. Don't worry so much about the abs. Focus on the arms. Get a little bit of the upper chest, and don't skip leg day. The belly
Don't skip leg day.
The belly is okay. I mean, keep it within a certain shape or whatever. But it's changed my gym philosophy for sure. I'm like, you know what? Core. What's core?
Who would ever have guessed? I could never look at him and think that. I'm like, good for you, Patrick Mahomes. You're winning Super Bowls. Who cares?
Yeah, listen.
Are you taking them?
There is, yes. I will never, ever, ever bet against Patrick Mahomes.
I know.
Ever again. I would rather bet on him and be wrong than bet against him and be right.
No. But also, do you think if Travis Kelce wins, that he will actually retire and just go travel with Taylor Swift?
No, but I think I would consider it if I was him. I think that he knows that he's getting close to the end, but I still think I feel like he feels like he has gas left in the tank. And there's nothing that says if the Chiefs lose in the Super Bowl this weekend, they're going to be one of the top 3 favorites to win it again next year. So I feel
think
like
they will as long as Patrick Mahomes is around.
From Travis's perspective, until he gets to a point like his brother, where it's like my body is literally breaking down.
Yeah.
Then I don't think he'll do that. And
he still thinks Jason's going to come back next year.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Also, we just have to have this conversation. I talked about it on Denver Sports Daily, and I'm sorry to the NFL if you're going to get mad at me for this. I hate that they are trying to make it go global. No one, if you're a Philly fan, you do not want to watch the Eagles play in Brazil on their opening night. Like, no one wants that.
Okay, well, hold on.
You cannot tell me that you're like, oh yeah, I can't wait for this game.
I'm gonna watch it because the NFL is king.
What time is it in Brazil? Can somebody look that up?
I think they're gonna play it like right now.
What time is it in Brazil?
Hold on.
Brazil time. They are 4 hours ahead of us.
Okay, that's not bad. But I will say this: are you not thinking it's cool at all that on NFL opening weekend we're gonna get the Thursday night season opener, Friday night, Sunday all day, and Monday night?
No.
You're going to get 4 days of football in a 5-day span. We haven't had that since COVID.
Yeah. We haven't had a Friday night game since 1970.
Well, no, but during the COVID year, because of all the postponements and stuff, we had Monday night football, Tuesday night football, Wednesday night football, Thursday night, and then Sunday.
Here's my only thing. I am for opening weekend. Yeah, right. Because everybody's like, I can't wait for football. I'm so ready for football. My only thing on this is football is so precious to me that I look forward to my Sundays with all football. I'm like, Thursday, perfect. I got my Sundays. We can throw in some college ball. If I start to have football every single night of the week, it's no longer going to be so precious and sacred to me. It's just going to be like, oh yeah, what game's on this time? Instead, I sit down and I'm ready to go on Thursday night and Monday night. I am ready to go. If it starts happening every night, I'm going to lose.
Okay, but like, again, we're talking about, because there's 3 standalone games as it sits now. Thursday night, Sunday night.
Also, you like the 7 a.m. morning games? Hell no, nobody likes those.
I'm not thrilled with those.
No,
I'm not thrilled with those. But listen, I'll say this, and I've been very upfront about this basically from the jump. I am pro billionaire. I am pro dynasty. I am pro all that. So the NFL wanting to basically play Monopoly or Risk and just take over the world, I'm cool with that, because you know what?
I don't like it.
They'll win.
Who cares?
They'll win. And so, like, I don't know. Like, if you were to ask me,
it's more important for you to be bigger than to appreciate the fans that you have here. All of a sudden, we're going to 2 home games because the Broncos are going to London and Japan.
It's not a one-to-one relationship, because as much as we want to say as fans that we have the power and this and that, we don't.
Oh no,
we've done. How many times has it been like, we're going to boycott the NFL because of kneeling, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and it doesn't work. People said the same thing about the NBA, which that was a little bit more impactful, but the NFL specifically, they're a war machine. They literally just churn and churn and churn, and they're always going to find ways to make more money. That's why I laughed about they're like, the NFL is they're going to rig things to keep the Chiefs because of Taylor Swift. The NFL doesn't need Taylor Swift. No. The NFL is just like, they almost just got like a gift, lobbed into their lap with Taylor Swift.
Travis Kelce was like, What can I say?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm all for it in terms of the global expansion because I think it's different. I think it's unique. I see what you're saying about the 7 a.m. games.
Comments.
But I'll say this, in 20 years, I would not be stunned at all if we have an international division in the NFL. We have 2 AFC and 2 NFC teams that are in London or Vancouver or Germany.
So what? Everybody has hell schedules because you're all of a sudden traveling across the world. That's terrible.
Yep.
And it's not like we see really good football in any of those games. Everyone's exhausted. Like, no, it's overall, it's bad. I'm not a fan. I'm over it. I don't want it to happen. I know it is going to happen, but I'm already angry about it.
I think it's definitely going to be an adjustment and the most underrated aspect of it is what you mentioned there, which is the travel and the scheduling.
And how many players are going to be like, I don't want to freaking do this.
But you see it. I mean, you see it in like the NHL is probably the best example of like out of country, but you'll see it like the Avalanche will go up and play, the Nordiques, but then they'll also play the Flames, the Maple Leafs. Like they almost do like a Canadian road trip tour before coming back down to play like the Islanders or something in New York. And that's probably what you would see. Like the Broncos would go on the road to play a team in Toronto and then they would play, a Vancouver team I'm like pointing as if I know on a map I have no idea. But
I would love to see you. Can we get a giant map that you have to like name? Could you name all of the states if you had to go down?
I feel like I could get a bunch of them, but I'm almost positive that I would screw.
I remember doing that in school
because I think I've done this before, and it was harder than I thought.
Oh yeah, you get to the East Coast and like all of those, and you're like, ooh.
Yeah. In 8th grade, I was able to do a map test of the world and countries in the world, and I got a lot of them right. But it was kind of one of those like you cram the information 5 minutes before the test, and then you just like regurgitate it. I've never been able to come close.
So I'm going for my honeymoon. I'm going to Switzerland. This is so embarrassing. I'm going to call myself out. So I was like putting together this whole thing and I was like, okay, like we'll go to Italy and Switzerland. I was so off on my like geography of where they both were. I was like, oh, right. I need to go back to school. Like clearly I'm a little messed up here. It was really embarrassing last night. Okay, moving on though, because the show always goes by way too fast when Richie gets in here. Him and I just BS the crap out of everything. We had this viewer actually who had DM'd me and said, hey, Rachel, a discussion topic idea for you and Richie. Would you be willing to trade Bo Byrum? Obviously, the trade deadline's coming up for the Avalanche, and a lot of people are starting to be interested. And I'm curious your thoughts on saying goodbye to Bo.
It's tough because, again, kind of like in the vein of MPJ, it really feels like Bo Byrum has been this like roller coaster kind of
thought he was going to be super good.
Up and down. He had all this promise coming in young, and then he started battling all these concussion issues. He had to step away from the team for personal reasons and was, battling seemingly with depression and all kinds of stuff. But then he's come back, and it was kind of this triumphant return. So I don't know. I would treat that in the same vein as the MPJ thing. I think from a philosophical standpoint, I would like the Avs to be as active at the trade deadline as possible for what makes sense. So just like with MPJ, if you could trade MPJ and you could bring in a high caliber piece that kind of can fit into what you need and maybe give you a more consistent scoring option and all that stuff, great. I don't know what you would get back for Bo Byrum. I haven't really dug in to that, but I'll say this. When in defense of being active at the trade deadline, when the Avs won the Cup in 2021, Sakic was really active at the trade deadline. And I mean, you look at the names he brought in, it was like Lehkonen, Cogliano, Sturm, Manson, McDermott, right? And you look at all those guys, including McDermott a little bit, but especially those first 3 or 4, every single one of those guys
had an impact,
had a major impactful moment in the Stanley Cup playoffs and in the Stanley Cup final. Like I'm talking game-winning goal, overtime goals. And it was like,
they couldn't just rely on the stars.
Yes, yeah.
And they need to do that again this year.
And you saw, like we all know with the Avs that they've, they're still looking for a second line center, consistent option in a market that's pretty thin. It'd be nice if they had a backup goaltending option that we could rely on because, listen, we won a cup with Darcy Kemper, who was kind of up and down and inconsistent and by no means was like, Vezina material for a lot of points in the season, but they also had Frankie.
Yeah.
And Frankie was huge in the Stanley Cup final. Was it the Edmonton series, I think, when they swept them? Because Darcy got poked in the eye.
Fun.
He got poked in the eye.
Fun.
So you have that. But so I think we know what the needs are. But overall, it's just like, do we think this team has the depth to make another run? Because when they ran into the Kraken, last year, it was obvious. Outside of their top line, they had no gas.
Can I get a one shot on me?
Yeah.
No, they do not have the depth that they have or they need to win a cup. Please go be active at the trade deadline. I beg you.
So if you're telling me that you can put a guy like Bo Byrum on there and bring back a piece in return that you think really pushes you in the direction or satisfies some of those depth concerns, I'm all for it. I don't know what that looks like. I'm not going to pretend to have like this one-to-one scenario already mapped out, but conceptually speaking, I'm okay with it.
Perfect. Richie, always a pleasure, my friend.
Always a pleasure.
Oh, we'll have to get together and do some Super Bowl talk. Anyways, that's going to do it for Coffee Break today. You guys, love hanging out with you every single day. Thank you so much. Come hang out with Richie and I again sometime soon, I'm sure. And let us know in the comments if you guys like just kind of this random sports talk. Like, that's what we want to know. What do you guys want to pay attention to? What do you want to watch? Let us know in the comments tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Tune into Denver Sports Daily, going over all the headlines, and we'll be back tomorrow at 12 p.m. for another episode of Coffee Break. Get back to work, everybody. See you later. Bye.